KWT slaying.
Salama family, salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Happy Black History Month. I'm black, blackity black, 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 black. I'm blackity black, black all month. Just to let y'all know. So today we are dealing with deception, unlike I've ever seen before, and we talked about this before, and but it is crazy, right? It's crazy deception, and you know, it's beyond just what we're dealing with in terms of people who deny the deity of the Messiah, and you know, people who deny the virgin birth, you know, because they don't understand that without the virgin birth, you could forget being a perfect sacrifice, right? So obviously the virgin birth has to be legit. But I think a lot of people are caught up in deception, right? I mean, people denying the Old Testament, people denying the New Testament, you know, it's just on another level. And people come in with new winds of doctrine. But I'm not going to talk about that today. What I'm going to talk about is something I talked about in the past. And we're going to talk about it a little more today because, you know, eat the meat, spit out the bones, right? I know some of y'all got issues with that. That's a personal thing. But if you saw the video, Order 66, right? If you haven't seen it, it's over there on Odyssey. Give me a 1 if you saw the video, Order 66. Give me a 2 if you haven't. Okay, look like it's 50-50. I thought it would have been more who saw it. So if you haven't seen Order 66, I recommend you go to Odyssey to watch it, because the things that we cover over there couldn't be discussed on YouTube. That's if you want to have a, you know, foundational understanding of what I think is happening. So we have a great reset happening. And the question is, what does that even mean? Some people believe, you know, it's just an economic reset. But, you know, the scripture tells us there's nothing new under the sun. And so we're gonna discuss this from that viewpoint. Nothing new under the sun. And what I think is happening, obviously, is on a spiritual level. Now, let me tell you how I think the world works. Do you want to hear how I think the world works, truly works? My speculation, my theory. Now, you know, a lot of people have similar theories. But when you look at the evidence, this is what you come to, that as the scripture says, and we talked about this before, is that the world is run by fallen angels. Now, humanity calls them aliens. Some people call them the ascended masters. But I believe they're still here. I believe they're on Earth. I believe that a lot of things that we're dealing with is because of them. Now, as we know, there's a war going on between the Most High and Satan. And so because this war is happening, there's casualties of war. And people get to choose whose side you're on. Are you on God's side? Are you on Father Yah's side? Are you on Yeshua's side? Or are you on Satan's side? Are you on the fallen one's side? Or are you on the side of the watchers? Now, I was thinking of doing a teaching on the watchers because there's some interesting scriptures in what we call canon that many people overlook. And I might do it. We'll see. But anyway, let's look at this video. It's about 10 minutes. I might pause it on the way through, make a few comments. But, you know, as I said, if you haven't watched the Order 66 video, I recommend it.
Today we're going to be discussing a lost history, a very strange world where babies were literally sold as commodities and shipped as mail. Insane, right? What does it say about our past when, just 100 years ago, people were essentially shopping for infants? And why isn't this widely known? Could it be that this piece of history was deliberately buried or omitted due to its unsettling implications? I mean, did people actually need to mass purchase babies? Was this part of some grand repopulation scheme, or a migration wave where orphans and young kids were sold and moved westward? We've touched on this topic before. About a year ago, we released a video called Repopulation Postcards and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Our understanding has since evolved, and we got our hands on a brand new collection of absolutely jaw-dropping postcards that we can't wait to share with you. If you missed that earlier video, here's a quick rundown. While researching for our Old World Photoshop episode, we stumbled upon a peculiar trend in postcards from the early 1900s. These postcards, dated from 1890 to 1920, are a genre unto themselves and were circulated throughout Europe and the United States. But here's where it gets wild. Not only do these cards feature babies sprouting from cabbages, there are other categories that make it abundantly clear what's going on. It would seem that babies were being sold in baby farms or even baby shops. We're about to unravel a historical enigma that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the past.
All right, so I'm going to pause it there. We're going to continue, but basically, I know, you know, today, I would think people are more apt to believe this, but in the past, it was an issue because people didn't know anything about cloning. People didn't know anything about growing babies in, you know, incubators and things like that. So in the Order 66 video, we discuss why these things happened and what the world was like before the Industrial Revolution and all these things, what the world was like according to Benjamin Franklin. According to Ben Franklin himself, he stated that most of the world was black. So what happened? Now, let's watch a little bit more, but, you know, we'll talk about this. And I'm going to tell you what I think is happening, right? And like I said, it's my opinion.
Now that previous video did very well and went viral, but there were some things that we glossed over or didn't fully unpack. This video aims to set the record straight. This topic isn't just about whimsical images of babies and cabbages. Some viewers actually thought we were saying babies were literally grown in cabbages, and a few content creators even accused us of photoshopping the cards to deceive people. The disbelief mainly comes from the fact that many have never encountered these postcards before, but they're very real. And what they suggest isn't just shocking, it could completely upend our understanding of history. Before we dive into our updated collection, let's break this down a bit more because there's a lot to digest. Repopulation? Babies for sale? What are we even talking about? Yes, not only have we expanded our collection of these postcards, but we've also translated them. And now we've gained a clearer understanding of what these cards depict and the messages that they carry. It appears that these postcards were essentially advertisements, a way for people to literally select the baby they wanted to purchase shown on the cards. If you're a regular on our channel, you're probably already familiar with the cabbage babies category. We covered this extensively in our first repopulation postcards video, but that's just scratching the surface. There's another.
So I know for some of you all, this paradigm, this way of thinking, is crazy, but, we can see today these things can be done. And if you do the research on these things, you're going to find what you call out of place artifacts. And you're going to find things that hint towards a more high tech society, whether or not the technology was, similar to what we have today. But, even back in the 1800s, if you go watch the Order 66 video, that, in the late 1800s, they had a means of cloning animals, right? They had a means of cloning animals. And so, we're not going to get into one particular thing in this video, which is the buildings that are around the world that is very advanced, right? And they're made to be holy sites, right? Churches, temples. They're advanced buildings even to this day. They still exist. And so, you have to start using your thinking cap in order to figure out what's going on. So let's continue.
Another category that might be even more unsettling. We're calling it the avant-deux postcards. Avant-deux means for sale in French. While a significant chunk of these postcards are in French, this phenomenon wasn't limited to France. We can say this with certainty because our collection includes American cards with US postage stamps, as well as German and Dutch cards. So let's be clear, these postcards depict babies as products, essentially turning them into commodities available for purchase. And that's not just creepy, it's a stark reminder of how different social norms and practices were just a century ago. Alright, well, let's start off with a postcard that blatantly shows two babies next to a sign saying "Avant-deux" or "For sale." The caption at the top reads, "Jean who laughs, Jean who cries." At first glance, you might think it's just some quirky, vintage humor, but my suspicion? We're looking at something far more insidious. These are actually advertisements. Still skeptical? Check out this next one. Modern Baby Bazaar. Free entrance. Trustworthy establishment. Does not fear competition. Everything is for sale. All you have to do is take. We don't accept returns. Do you find anything cute about that? The card is literally branding itself as a trustworthy establishment and emphasizes a no return policy. Is this trying to point towards something much deeper? Also note the Rex label at the bottom right corner. This indicates one of the studios involved in creating these postcards. They weren't the only ones, but it seems they had a role in distributing these cards. There could be a connection to Rex theaters and cinema, although that's not confirmed. Let's examine another card. This one also boldly states, "Bébés à vendre," and here, the babies are displayed in baskets, as if they were produce in a grocery store. But it doesn't stop there. A baby is shown growing out of a cabbage, tying this back to the larger theme of repopulation. It's clear that we're not talking.
So we have uh, some Gentile people who say that their great grandfathers didn't know who their parents were, right? Some of them say that, and I'm not saying everybody's a clone, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying something strange has happened, and it starts to make sense. It starts to make sense of why we are hated so much, right? And how literal you can end up taking the scriptures. Because even though the Bible has allegories, right, and symbology, uh, a lot of times the way things are stated in the scriptures, they're stated as fact, or these things will happen, or these things did happen. And, um, you know, we'll talk about this a little bit as we go on, but the dynamic between Satan and the Most High of this war and what this war looks like, and the fight for the souls of men. And it is my contention, that a lot of what we see in Hollywood is true, though told with a, entertainment aspect to it. But, we'll talk about that.
About cabbages here, this is about the commodification of human life. Here's another one featuring cabbages being sold. To the left, we see babies sprouting from both cabbages and roses, freshly harvested, if you will. On the right, there's a display of babies, each accompanied by a phrase. The card's title, Babies for Sale. With them, you will have the greatest of joys. The text on the left of the card states, Your choice, all our babies bring happiness. Then under each baby, there are phrases almost like mini resumes. For example, I will be good. I will not pee in the bed. I am cheerful. I would love you. I will wait for you. I would be nice. It's almost as if each baby is accompanied by a sales pitch, a list of features to help you make your purchase. So we're forced to ask, what's going on here? It's not just an odd historical artifact. These postcards serve as a window into an unsettling era, one that treated the youngest members of society as mere products, complete with selling points and no return policies. Yes, these are babies being sold in a cart. The cabbages are symbolic of them being grown and sold as produce. This card proclaims, The cries of Paris. Here are pretty cabbage heads, babies, not expensive. Are we to understand that these children were being sold at bargain prices? And let's not ignore the emotional aspect. Many of these children depicted don't look happy. Some even appear to be screaming or visibly terrified. There are also cards showing babies confined in cages.
Well, I think they need to contact Karis for the anti-captivity spray. Karis, put the 1-800 number out there for the anti-captivity spray.
Like pets or even animals. Where's the humor in that? The card is explicit. Babies for sale. Do you want a baby? The implications are staggering. This isn't just an odd or quirky element of historical ephemera. These postcards are evocative of a time when societal values and norms were disturbingly different from today, to the point where the commodification of children was openly depicted and possibly socially acceptable. So the question is, what does this all mean for our understanding of history and human?
So what does it mean for our understanding of history? How does it change your paradigm? How does it change the way you see the future? How does it change this dynamic that we see about the war between the Most High and Satan?
Human morality, because clearly these aren't just pieces of vintage art. They're windows into a world we can barely comprehend. This next card might just be the most unsettling one. The text is simple but chilling. For sale. Buy me. I'm bored here. And the background is just as disturbing. An empty street devoid of any life or activity. The child is bored, but that boredom seems to hint at something far more unsettling. What are we to make of this? An empty street, a bored child for sale. Could this be suggestive of a larger, darker issue at play? Maybe these children weren't just bored, maybe they were neglected, or worse, trapped in a system that viewed them as goods rather than as human beings.
So trapped in a system that viewed them as goods rather than human beings. Now, we can see that in today's society. Everything is built upon the idea of commodities. Now, let me ask you all a question. Have you all heard of the Nation of Islam's view on where the majority come from? Now, I just don't want to get dinged. Now, I'm not saying that the Nation of Islam is correct on this, but it starts to get a little interesting where even some of these people, say for themselves, that there's something strange going on. So let me read this to you. It says, according to the beliefs of the Nation of Islam, Yaqub, now, they believe that it was Jacob, right? That's why they call him Yaqub, but I don't believe that, right? But anyway, Yaqub, sometimes called Yaqub, was a Black scientist who lived 6,600 years ago and began the creation of the majority race. He's said to have done this through a form of selective breeding, which is referred to as grafting. While he was living on the island of Patmos, the Nation of Islam's mythology states that Yaqub is the biblical Jacob. Of course, I don't believe that. The story has caused disputes within the Nation of Islam during its history. Right? So under his current leader, Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam continues to assert that the story of Yaqub is true, claiming that modern science is consistent with it. Now, I can't argue with that. Modern science is consistent with it. Now, I don't believe it's the biblical patriarch, obviously, but maybe there was some body named Yaqub, or who was he could definitely have been an Edomite. But some of these things seem far-fetched, but hey, you look at the idea of the postcard and the fact that those postcards were really advertisements for the sale of children, right? So let's look at this other video. And this particular guy here, I've shown him before. You'll see that what he believes, because he states specifically, not in this video, I don't think, but he states specifically in other videos that his great grandfather didn't know his parents. So let's look at this.
Incubators. Let's see some photos. Let's try and convey a certain message here, and then you can jump to your own conclusion. That's just like the word when you say infant incubators with living infants. Let's repeat after me. But before repeating, I actually added this bell here because I added one photo of a giant bell and one of a giant building, which is not there anymore because it was accidentally fire, because the reset, repopulation, nobody cares about any laws and rules for the kids. And these are like the good pictures, the good photos. I've made some videos with very, very sad photos. Now, this is the way that you would repopulate a country. This is a typical picture of the late 19th century and early 20th century. This is how they traveled to go from the poverty of many places in Europe to go to America. Many places of America, not just the States, but also South America. Because even though for many of you, you see South America today as a place which is very far away, back in the days, going to South America was the glorious glory of the Supreme Empire glory. You know what I mean? So it was like the place to go if you wanted to get rich and super, super cool really fast, like Argentina and Venezuela and all those places. So did somebody care about hygiene or safety? Why not? Is this because this is like the repopulation time of the world? Repopulation. I'm going to repeat to myself so I can get used to it. Infant incubators with living infants. Then I'm going to think about the movies. They call them science fiction movies with humans being made artificially in pods, in labs, like clones. No, don't go there. Don't go there, because you are going to be made look as if you read too much fantasy. Now, speaking about clones and everybody looking the same. I look at this photo and I say, where is the originality of the individual? Everybody dressed the same, just like in an orphanage. We've seen pictures of the orphanages. Everybody was dressed the same. But the same happens with the adults. Everybody dressed the same. Why? Anyway, maybe it's just a copy and paste picture, and maybe I'm the bad guy. I have like I didn't make my research properly. Who knows? But then we have the trains. You've seen this before. Now you're like super advanced in the knowledge, more than I am. And distribute. Remember the trains. Remember the boats and the ships for repopulation purpose. What more? This is a good one. The arrival of the babies. That's the title of the photo. The arrival and the distribution network and repopulation wise, very important. And a photo of the train itself. And then you ask your great grandpa and grandma to tell you about their infancy and their childhood, and they say, I don't remember my parents, I don't remember my childhood. And this is a photo typically you see in history books. You say, and the reset. Why do they allow this? Is it so? Not this other picture here. Let's go back here. Why did they allow this? They allowed this back in the day because there was no rules and no regulations, or was it not necessary? Because we have San Francisco. They said there was an earthquake, but then in San Francisco, when this whole thing happened, you could see the places where the buildings were there before and everything was destroyed. There was like signs saying, this place is going to be a barber shop, this one is going to be a bakery, this one is going to be a bank, this one is going to be the post office. So even before they even tried to make things look proper again and to help people, they already put in place the signs for each parcel saying what kind of building and business is going to be operational there. Do you get my point? For the purpose of reset. This is a building. I've added this here as well as the bell you've seen in the other photo. Why? Because along with the infant incubators and the repopulation stuff, so that you can.
So one of the things he talks about in some of his other videos is like the buildings you see in the image, is that these buildings during the time of the mid to late 1800s, stuff like that, where they were supposed to have been built, people who were riding around in buggies, horse-drawn carriages, things like that, building things with wood and nails, right? We're able to build these type of structures, these type of buildings, and some of these buildings still exist. And we see some of these buildings in Europe, and they got doors that's twice the size of men, right? Made for giants, right? So apparently something happened. And, you really have to start looking at these things and asking the right questions, right? That's why I say eat the meat, spit out the bones. You don't have to believe anything I say, but it starts to make sense, even from a biblical standpoint, if you take the Bible literally, right? If you take the Bible literally, it starts to make sense. Now, of course, where there's symbolism and things like that, you want to use that. But even with the symbolism, it's telling a story. So let's continue.
Accept in a way to acknowledge what was there before. There was a different humanity before, and you need a reset to make a new humanity. And what would I do if I was like a big boss man? I'm Mr. Boss Man. I'm not. But for example, if I was Mr. Boss Man and I have lots of corporations and I need workers, because that's what I need in a corporation. I need workers. I need people to work for me.
And let's not forget, in the other video, we saw the postcards for the sale of babies, right? So keep that in mind while you're listening to this stuff.
Because I need to get all the money and people work for me. It's not my case, but I'm speaking like this so that you don't get angry, because you might say, "Oh, you speak about me." No, I speak about myself, because I can laugh at myself. It's a I'm allowed to laugh at myself. I think that's a human right, because if I laugh at somebody else, then I can get to court and I need to go to, yeah. But if I laugh at myself, I'm allowed to laugh at my own self. So yeah, in order to have enough workers to work in my companies and my factories and in the industrial revolution, I would repopulate the world. So does the word repopulation with all these photos I'm showing you makes any sense? It should. And the reset makes sense. So one more thing about this whole, I'm not sure about, I'm not going to leave this here for just get this photo into your mind.
So why were these children working in factories, right? During the Industrial Revolution, why didn't they have adults working in here? Why were the kids working in these plants, right? You got to ask yourself these questions. Where were the adults? Why were they working these machines? Who built the machines? I mean, there's a lot of questions.
I'm just gonna go to a different place now, because I don't want to keep the thing with the kids working in companies too much. There were so many ways of doing the Industrial Revolution and not making kids work. Yet the adults, even though the system, a legal system was in place, nobody cared for like many years that was the case of having kids and children working in factories, until society was more civilized, I guess, after the world was repopulated after 50 years or even almost 100 years. Then they decided to put some rules in place to make it more efficient, I guess. I don't know. So, which means that because we have the 1800s, and because all the photos are from the 1840s, 50s until the 1900s, and because we had these places like with the big bells and the big buildings, and these places with the big buildings here, this one, and we have all the accidental fires in many of the cities like San Francisco and many of the other cities before it in the 1800s and in the 1700s in all the world, and all these resets and fires. As you can see, the cities were built on stone, yet all the stone is destroyed, just like in the bombings of the Second World War. And we have this whole thing about the trains with the babies and with the orphans and with the train orphans and with the immigrants going so hugely from Europe and other places in the world, especially to North America and South America and Central America. The conclusion is the following. Something big happened in this world. Let's leave it here with the infant incubators. Something big happened in this world. And then from 1840, 1850, there was a huge repopulation event. Why do all the people look the same? All the kids look the same. And many, the big majority of kids and those who were adults in the late 1800s, no one remembers their infancy and their childhood. And the big majority of them, 9 out of 10, are orphans. And it goes the same as in my family, because in my family and as well as yours, back in the 1970s and 1960s, when your parents were born, for example, if you're like age 30 to 40 or to 50 right now, your parents were born in the 1950s, 1960s, and they met their grandparents, some of them, or their great-grandparents, and they will always say, I do not remember my past and my childhood before.
So it's real interesting, in my opinion, that not only did you have this whole thing with the orphanages and the incubators, you also had migrations. As he mentioned, a lot of people were migrating to the Americas, to Latin America, all these different places, a whole bunch of people migrating. Does that not sound familiar? The whole idea of these people and their migrations. So we have the same thing happening today. We have a bunch of migrants, right, who's migrating to different nations, who's migrating to America. And a lot of these things, it's easy to overlook, but if you put it into, you put the pieces together, with the whole idea of the incubator babies at these carnivals and all of these things, a few things start to make sense. Now, whether or not you believe these things to be fact, you got to put it in your what's the word, in the idea of that it can be a possibility that there was some type of reset, there was a repopulation effort. Now, we have the same thing happening again, right, with the migrations, and we have cloning technology today. We have a lot of things that's happening today that a lot of people, just don't pay attention to. And so, I don't know if, a lot of people believe that, the powers that be, let's say, would be so interested in repopulating the world. Now, there's a different dynamic, right, that we can put to this. And, I'm going to talk about it in a bit, but there's a different dynamic between, the deep underground bases, the whole idea of aliens, UFOs, cloning, high technology, the fallen angels, stuff like that. Now, I've come to believe that, a lot of people don't believe the Bible. I mean, they say they believe it, but, we see that they don't. I believe the scriptures. And I think that something strange has happened. I believe that this whole thing of these last days, the whole thing with the mark of the beast and the whole technology of the fallen, I think it plays a role in these last days. I think the old buildings, the cathedrals, and all these things play a role in the history of the past. Now, some people are going to say, hey, tell them teaching, cloning or something like that. No, what I'm teaching is the fact that I think the world is more complex than what we were led to believe, right? So, for instance, before I continue, how many of you all, okay, let me do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. Tell me who was the first president of these United States. Who was the first president? Okay, George Washington. George Washington, a black dude. George Mason, John Adams. And I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to want you to go check it out. What I'm going to tell you, yes, well Michael McEwen. Where is it? It just disappeared that quick. He was right there. What happened to it? It was right there. I was about to highlight it. Sort of weird. Did the engine pull it, or did you remove it, Michael McEwen? Yeah, John Hanson. So, he was the CEO, if you will, or president of the Continental Congress. So you had 14 other people who were what we will call president of these, these colonies or whatever you want to call it. Now, George Washington was the president under the current Constitution. Yeah, so John Hanson. So, we were taught that it was George Washington, right? But the dynamic of what really happened is, the whole thing of the Continental Congress, and you know there were 14 other presidents or leaders or CEOs or whatever you want to call it of this corporation called the United States. So, but how does that affect your paradigm? Why didn't they teach you that in school? Why did they say George Washington just because he was the first president under the Constitution? And see, these are the type of things that is withheld from us that can give you a deeper dynamic of what's really happening in the world. So, whether or not you believe that, these, things occurred, obviously there was a huge movement of orphans. There was a huge movement of orphans. There was a huge movement of people migrating. Now, what I want to do is add to the dynamic. This is interesting. I mean, to me, look, I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, right? But it adds a huge dynamic to the stories being told, and I just see so much. But anyway, let's look at this.
Hey guys. Seems like everybody's talking about They Cloned Tyrone. It's a good film, but some seriously weird stuff is going on. I'm not going to break down the whole movie, but instead, this is just to point out all the theories and occulted topics discussed within the story. So wait, the entire United States is an experiment? They're trying to turn black people into white people? Well, Netflix seems to do this a lot. They will either use real-world conspiracies or reveal a certain glimpse into the minds of the writers and producers who make this edgy content, especially when we consider Black Mirror. This is like a good Black Mirror movie, way better than the last season of Black Mirror. This is actually pretty good, and apparently it was shot on film. The weird part is there seems to be sort of a mockery. Many stereotypes are projected, and furthermore, certain ideas are shared that seem to hint to a potential reality. Otherwise, what's the horrifying part about this movie? It's the probability that it may be true, hence why they're using conspiracy theories as a storyline. Oh, and yeah, there's probably going to be spoilers, so heads up. So how do you even explain this movie? It's centered around a drug dealer who suddenly wakes up in his fabricated reality, realizing his life is a complete lie. You've got underground labs all over the United States, and they're doing more than just watching every citizen's move. They're cloning humans, setting up entire cities as experiments, where they specifically deploy these clones to interact and maintain a certain level of peace for the public. They do this through covert chemical infusions in the food supply and by using mind-controlled clones as characters to sway these cities to fit the blueprint they were designed for. Memories are even implanted into the clones so they don't know that they are clones in a massive mind control experiment. But that's not it. The movie is laden with heavy eugenic and racial undertones. It sort of implies that black people need to be phased out, and they're actually trying to slowly transform black people into white people. And who's pulling the strings? None other than a black scientist who, spoiler alert, is actually our main character, Fontaine.
All right, so it was a black scientist who was trying to manipulate black folks to become white folks, according to this guy and the movie They Cloned Tyrone. Now, what's interesting, does that not remind you of the whole thing that I read about the Nation of Islam and Yaqub? Yes or no? Is a black scientist, according to the Nation of Islam, that created them folks. Now, when you think about the whole thing with the incubator babies and the trains and the orphanages and the selling of children, that they would want to do the same to us. Now, remember, when we look at history and we look at science and we look at, archaeologists and their writings, where did humanity start? Tell me where your humanity started. According to the scientists, where did humanity first start? Africa, correct. So if humanity started in Africa, then by definition, the original people are from where? Africa. And assuming there's any credibility to this whole idea of cloning, this whole idea of Cabbage Patch Kids, this whole idea of incubator babies and orphanages and stuff. And, if you go look at, like I said, the movie not the movie, but the video on Odyssey, Order 66, there are some hints toward a lot of this stuff being true. We'll never know for sure till the Most High comes. But there are some hints to this idea being true if you look at the history, if you look at what, Benjamin Franklin has stated and things like that. So, but it's interesting that in They Clone Tyrone, according to this guy, they want to change the black folks and make them white. Now, I find it interesting that, they have been promoting the mixture of black folks with white folks, right? Every movie has a black guy with a white woman or a white guy with a black woman. Every commercial, right? There has been a movement towards that. There's also been a movement towards alphabets. And so when we look at all of these things, we got to ask ourselves questions. Are these things just entertainment? Is it coincidence? Does, what they're saying in this movie line up with what the Nation of Islam said? Are they playing games with us? Or, is it all just fantasy? But yet we do know there was a huge orphanage thing going on in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Whole bunch of orphanages and kids, in those orphanages being sent around the world, sent to America. Can we say migrations? There's something going on. Now, think of this theoretical. I don't know anything because I don't have no hidden secrets. I don't have no hidden papers, but I have the discerning spirit. I want you to put your thinking cap on. Now, think of this for a second. Okay, let's assume for a second that the incubator babies was legit. Let's assume for a second that the Cabbage Patch Kids were legit. We know for a fact that the kids were sent on orphanages. From orphanages to, different homes and orphan asylums, as they used to call them. And they were sent on trains and, things like that all around the world. We know this for a fact. This is history. Let's assume all that was legit. Now, let's apply this to present day. I'm just theorizing. I don't know anything, okay? I'm just theorizing. What if, and now if was the fifth, we all be drunk. What if this whole mass migration effort that's going on is the introduction of some more cloned people? I'm just saying, how do you get a new influx of incubator babies or clone babies or whatever, manufactured babies, whatever you want to call them, because we got the technology. What if this whole migration effort is to get them into these nations, which is why you have so many going to Europe, right? So many coming to the United States. They're all crossing the borders and they're allowing them in. Is this not a good way to get them in? I'm just asking. I don't know. I told you I don't have no special information. I'm just asking questions. It's all theoretical. It's for fun. But if you were to be having this situation happening again, Because the Bible says what? There's nothing new under the sun. What was is what shall be. If this is happening again, how best to do it? Because guess what? You're not going to have a bunch of orphanages today. You're not going to have a bunch of orphanages today. And you're not going to be selling them through postcards and mail. That wouldn't work out. So how do you get them into society? I'm just asking. I don't know. But we've been conditioned, we've been prepared, we've been manipulated, we've been told the future, right? We've been told the future. Now, this particular video I'm going to show, I showed this before in one of my other videos. I don't remember which one. But let's take the pieces. Yeah, let's not talk about the human trafficking. I'm just saying, I'm telling you there's something weird going on. Just my spiritual discernment. I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. It's all for fun. It's all theoretical. It's all theoretical.
Introducing Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility, powered entirely by renewable energy. Ectolife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications. With Ectolife, premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past. Ectolife is designed to help countries that are suffering from severe population decline, including Japan, Bulgaria, South Korea, and many others. The facility features 75 highly equipped labs. Each state-of-the-art lab can accommodate up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs. Every pod is designed to replicate the exact conditions that exist inside the mother's uterus. A single building can incubate up to 30,000 lab-grown babies per year. Ectolife allows your baby to develop in an infection-free environment. The pods are made of materials that prevent germs from sticking to their surfaces. Every growth pod features sensors that can monitor your baby's vital signs, including heartbeat, temperature, blood pressure, breathing rate, and oxygen saturation. The artificial intelligence-based system also monitors the physical features of your baby and reports any potential genetic abnormalities. The pods are equipped with a screen that displays real-time data on the developmental progress of your baby. These data are sent directly to your phone so you can track your baby's health from the comfort of your zone. The app also provides you with a high-resolution live view of your baby's development. A special section in the app allows you to watch a time-lapse of your baby's growth and share it directly with your loved ones.
I'm just saying, maybe I'm just seeing things that aren't there. Maybe that's it. Maybe the incubator babies and the Cabbage Patch babies for sale has nothing to do with this. Maybe this whole thing of the Ectolife and these chambers of, thousands and thousands of babies. I'm just saying, maybe the whole migration thing don't have nothing to do with this. Maybe it's all coincidence. I don't know. I sense something very dark. They've been telling you in movies and TV shows like Fringe what's happening. I'm just saying, it makes sense to me. Now, let's say, because, I take the Bible literally, where the Bible speaks metaphorically or symbolically, then, I agree with that. But a lot of times it's telling you something that's real. The Bible says that there's the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, right? Do you wonder why people hate you so much? I'm just asking. You will be hated of all nations for my name's sake. The people from the original continent, the people from the original people, the original mankind, humankind. I'm just saying, maybe. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. Now let's take this literally. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain has sprouted and produced a crop, can we say Cabbage Patch Kids? I'm just and produce a crop. I'm just saying, Then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, and I'm not comparing humanity to Cabbage Patch Kids. I'm just, I'm making an analogy, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? He said to them, an enemy has done this. The servant said to him, do you want us to go and gather them up? But he said, no, least while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Now, the old interpretation of this is that it is, the good people versus the bad people, right? And the bad people are going to be burned up at the end of the age, right? But, the Bible talks about how God put us here in his garden. I was going to do a teaching on that. I sort of talked about it indirectly about the two trees in the garden, which dealing with kingdoms, but the Bible talks about how God put us in his garden and put Adam and Eve in his garden to till the land and, take care of the animals and administrate it. God put humanity in this world, the wheat. Satan came along and put in another group of people called the tares. Now, the wheat and the tares look alike. And you can't tell a difference between a wheat, can we say human, or a tare, a not fully human. Now, obviously, these symbols represent humanity. Because at the end of the age, it is the angels who do the separation, and the angels come with the sickle to harvest the wheat and to harvest the tares. Now, the tares are harvested first. The Bible calls them grapes in the book of Revelation. Now, we've always thought of this scenario as being, as I stated before, the good people versus the bad people. What if it's the humans versus the non-humans? What if it's the humans versus the demi-humans? What if it's the humans or, descendants of Adam versus the Nephilim? I mean, obviously something has been going on and something is going on, and the advancement in technology is off the scale. I know it's sort of scary. I'm just telling you what I think I see. And the way I feel about things today is, you can't trust a lot of people. You better have your discernment on. you better have your discernment on. You better be walking in the power of the Holy Spirit, because we're dealing with some serious stuff. Just my opinion. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 1:11, there is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So apparently, according to the guy at Divergent, there was a previous reset. Why? I don't know. We know there was a reset after the flood of Noah, but was there a reset sometime, or what, 400 or 500 years ago? I don't know. But nobody remembers the former things. As the guy in Divergent said, his grandparents don't remember their parents. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So when we are born into this world and we come after, we don't remember anything. We don't know what happened before. We only know what they told us. They told us George Washington was the first president of the United States. Technically, that's true if you look at it from the viewpoint of the Constitution. But in reality, it's false, because it really was John Hanson. See, like I said, it's my opinion. If you really want to know true history, just watch Fringe and movies like it, Divergent, and all other, high-tech sci-fi movies. The Simpsons. You want to know what really is going on and what's happening? They're telling you there, because they figure you're too dumb to know it. See, if what I'm saying is legit, then everything we're dealing with is deception. Everything at every level is deception. I told you, even in the awakening, there's deception. That's why you got people denying the Savior. Some people just straight up deny the Savior. Some people deny the New Testament, therefore they deny the Savior. Some people say he's an angel. Some people say he's not divine. Well, guess what? A man can't die for your sins unless he's God in human flesh. Had to be a virgin birth, because without a virgin birth, you wouldn't fulfill the requirement of an unblemished sacrifice. I told you deception at every level. And, sometime I would tell y'all that, hey, I'm concerned. Y'all don't know how bad it is, how bad this thing is, that this world has been taken over. We are in a world government. We are already in the New World Order. This is why South Africa and many of these other African nations, and a lot of people put their hope in that, they all go along with the world government. They all go along with the United Nations. They got to go to the Hague or the ICJ to get a ruling against another nation. Why? Because we are already in a world government. They're not telling you that, but they're acting as if we are. And these nations are acting like individual states within America, right? The way states have their own rights and they can decide their own things. That's what's happening now on a global scene. So we had incubator babies, apparently. We had the Cabbage Patch Kids being sold. We have a huge migration effort going on today. They had a huge migration effort going on back then. Now, here's where my mind really starts thinking about stuff. Okay? I'm telling you, it's wild. Sometimes I think too much. Okay? Eat the meat, spit out the bone. Now, this the East African slavery, 1868. We all know that most of the children who were taken from West Africa, brought to the Americas, right? And you also had the East African slave trade with the Muslims. Now think of this again, okay? So we know that we went into captivity because of the sins of our ancestors. We know this. But think of this for a second. Just me thinking. You ain't got to agree. With the transatlantic slave trade, if there was a great reset, they needed somebody to rebuild. So they say, hey, let's go get the African, let's go get the Israelites, let's go get the tribe of Judah because their God is mad at them anyway. So let's go take them to rebuild our kingdom. Now, I don't know what happened, but, you know, they didn't have enough of people. They didn't have enough of them folks to rebuild. Now, if you go, like I said, go watch Order 66. Ben Franklin said most of the world were people of color. There weren't too many Anglo-Saxons, at least white Anglo-Saxons, according to Ben Franklin. So they didn't have enough of people to build these nations and these cities. And if it was a great reset, they didn't have enough people to rebuild. So they had to go get the tribe of Judah because of the great reset. Now, a lot of people, according to, at least from what I'm seeing, with this new reset that they call the Great Reset, which is, according to them, is the economic reset. But hey, if it is a great reset, then guess what? A lot of people, you know, ain't gonna be here no more. And you're gonna have to have a bunch of people to rebuild and run things. So therefore, you got to get the new humans in, and the new humans will be able to integrate with technology. The new humans will be able to get the neural link. The new humans will be able to get the chip implant. Now, I'm theorizing, speculation. So according to some of these scholars, you know, some of these guys, you know, the reset happened in like the 1800s. Could have been before then, whatever. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. You got to do the research. I mean, if you know from the viewpoint I'm coming in, I can't give you everything. You have to start digging for yourselves, and you have to start asking yourself the right questions. And yeah, let's not even talk about Tartaria. I have a video on Tartaria as well. All of these things come full circle. All of these things come full circle, and you have to ask yourself questions. It don't make sense. A lot of stuff don't make sense. And when you look at what's happening, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you what I think. And I don't care, you know, people could call me crazy. They'll probably do a bunch of hit pieces. But if you look at the evidence, you have to admit something's wrong. Something has changed. They're all out of place artifacts. And when you look at what people have said about the past, you know, like I said, Ben Franklin, he said that the world was mostly people of color. Now, what happened today? Why is that not the case anymore? There was such a thing as orphanages. And these kids were being sent all over the place. What happened? There wasn't no world war at that time. Where all them kids come from? I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm asking questions because I don't know. Why did they need to get Judah and bring Judah into slavery to what? Rebuild these places that were destroyed. Now, I don't know what happened. I'm just saying it. If you look at the Bible and the idea of the wheat and the tares, and you know, if you take it from a literal approach, somebody came and planted some things that look human. I'm just saying. I don't know. I believe the Bible, though. I'm not like some of them Christians who just be like, hey, well, the Bible don't really say that. Well, it sort of say that to me. The Bible says the tare's going to live amongst the wheat. You ain't going to be able to tell the difference. Only the angels can. Now, if it was the good people versus the wicked people, I'm just asking questions because I told you I don't have the answers. If it was the good people versus the wicked people, as we've been taught, and not a genetic difference, could you not tell a difference between their actions? Could you not tell a difference between somebody who has good fruit versus somebody who has bad fruit? So why did the angels have to leave the tares until the end of the age to do the separations if they were just bad people? Because I could look at your fruit and say, hey, you bad. Or I could say, he don't have no good fruit. They don't produce no fruit. They just take them out. But for some reason, we have to wait till the end of the age for the angels to do the separation. Why? Because they look human. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. What we had in the days of Noah: giants, Nephilim, angels left their first estate, came down and produced little bambinos with human women. I'm just asking. So today we have this illegal alien invasion, right? Coming in through Mexico and from Ecuador, all these different places, coming into the United States. Now, assuming the whole idea, as I stated, of the incubator babies being, sold to populate humanity. Is this not a way to repopulate humanity and to get them into society? Is this not a good way to infiltrate and bring in people into society? Now, think of this for a second. Who caused the issues that we had over the last 3 years? Was it some place in China? Was it China that caused the issues over the last 3 years? China has advanced technologically as well. What if China is also sending in a lot of incubator babies? I'm just saying, they're not babies anymore. I'm just saying, because you got a lot of them folks coming over here too. I'm just asking, I'm telling you, something's wrong. I don't trust China as far as I could throw them.
Children in Africa, and these children will be Chinese and African, but being African, these children are Chinese, who are going to be educated in our system, who will receive scholarships to go back to China and come back and become presidents and ministers in Africa, and by right they are citizens because we're born here. It's a strategy. The Chinese are not just here to expand land issues. They are here to reorganize a population preservation of their own nation in other countries. They're overpopulated now, so they're pushing some of them here. Not only that, it's also a 30-year plan to take over certain parts of Africa. So the prisoners that are being sent here to come and work, they don't bring their wives. They come alone, prisoners and bachelors, who now are making children in Africa, and these children will be Chinese and African. But being African, these children are Chinese.
So we got the Chinese on the continent. The Chinese are having little bambinos with our women over there. You saw the cute little African woman with her belly, holding her belly because she having his kid. So the Chinese are trying to bring themselves so they can have influence on the continent. Think of all of the migrations into Europe from all over the world, from Africa, from, Eastern Europe, into Spain, into Italy, into Britain, into Sweden. The whole migration effort that we have here in America, tied into the idea of a people that's being, and I don't really want to go here, but being changed. Like I say, maybe I'm seeing things. Maybe these things aren't happening. Maybe it's not as extreme as I think it is. See, according to the video I was showing about they cloned Tyrone, they wanted to make black folks white. Now, can we say what's the word I want to use? Let's just say get rid of the Israelites. See, all of this stuff is to replace us. All of this stuff is to get rid of us. Why is everything focused on us? Why are we always the problem? Why are we always the focus of every technology? Why during the last 3 years, it was all about Africa? Africa don't have enough. Africa don't have this. They're not going to survive. All the black folks ain't going to survive. I'm just saying, everything is about us. There's something sinister going on. And I know it sounds like a horror movie. I know it sounds like a sci-fi movie. But welcome to your Black History Month, because they want your black butt gone. They're passing all the Jim Crow laws again, pretty much, in America. They say by 2053, black folks ain't gonna have no income, no wealth. I'm just saying, if you start putting the pieces together, and we have traders at all levels, and some of y'all be trusting these people. Y'all don't vet their teachings. Y'all don't vet nothing. Y'all believe anything they say. And then when I tell you, hey, they lying to you, guess what? Y'all got a problem with me. And I'm just like, say, hey, you might want to look at that again. You might want to research what they teaching. You ain't got to trust me. I told you don't trust nobody but the Most High. I'm just saying, you need to be more cautious. This thing is dangerous. It is worse than I thought. The deception is greater than I ever thought. This thing is on the level of sci-fi. And here's the thing. Would you expect anything less from Satan? I'm just asking, would you expect anything less from Satan? If we are at the end times, and this is to deceive humanity, and this is to overthrow God's chosen, and this is to make sure nobody can go to heaven, and this is to make sure that Satan wins and have his own people on the planet, how do you think he will pull that off? These people then got control of everything and say, you know what? Eat the bugs. Eat the poo-poo. You be like, I want to eat some meat. Nah, eat the poo-poo. You don't have no choice. Here's some modified soybean. It looked like meat. Here, eat that. We be like, let's get together with Africa. Let's join Africa. You know what they're doing in Africa? And I ain't hating on Africa and Africans. I'm just saying the leadership is going along with the New World Order globalist plan. The people of Africa have no idea what's going on, so they're marrying them folks. The people of Africa call us hateful because we like, hey, they're trying to come in there. They're trying to take over. They want your resources. They want to replace you. You go to Africa and you go to a restaurant, they're going to treat them folks better than their folks. I'm just saying. You could have more money than they do, but if you got that brighter looking hue, guess what? You get better service. I'm just saying. We screwed. If the Most High don't come, we're in trouble. We can't get along for nothing. Let me do business with my little Israelite brother. Guess what? He gonna steal from me. He gonna rob me. She gonna rob me. They gonna lie on me. They gonna twist my words. But then people say, hey, let's get along and get along because we are Israel. There should be no division. Well, guess what? Some people ain't walking in righteousness. If you ain't walking in righteousness, how can two walk together? At least they agree. It ain't gonna happen. Don't get mad at me because I don't want to talk and hang out with some of y'all. Some of y'all got some issues. Some of y'all ain't living right. Some of y'all ain't loving. Some of y'all ain't treating your people right. Some of y'all ain't doing right. Y'all not doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Some of y'all know it. Some of y'all telling half truths. Some of y'all telling straight out lies. But what do you expect? These are the last days. We're living in the book of Revelation. Don't get it twisted. People be like, oh, you can make a lot of money today. Don't let nobody tell you can't make no money in America. You can make a good living in America. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But you can only go so far. Unless you sell out. Unless you compromise. Unless you betray your people. Unless you betray your God, guess what? If you do all that, you could get a lot of money. You could become rich. You could have all the houses, all the cars, all the women. You could have all that stuff if you just betray your own. See, why you think some of the people in Africa, some of these leaders, don't do right by their people? How come you think they're not creating businesses and corporations and all these things? Why? Because they sold out. They're giving it all to the Gentiles. They don't want their people successful. Why? Because they know if their people become successful, they might get taken out. Oh, yeah. Go listen to the Economic Hitman. Have y'all ever heard of Economic Hitman? Give me a 1 if you heard of Economic Hitman. Give me a 2 if you haven't. You can't trust nobody but the Most High. If you haven't heard of Economic Hitman, Google it. Go listen to him. Everybody betraying us. Those you think on your side ain't on your side. The Most High said, few gonna be saved. I wonder why. Because some people leading you away from the Savior. Some people telling you he not God. Some people telling you can't trust the Bible. You can't trust the text because the white man then manipulated it. I'm not saying they're on some translation issue, but you can trust it because the message is consistent. See, y'all don't understand. People have sold out. Some of y'all don't understand. We got the entertainers and they be doing luciferic signs, and some of y'all say, well, that don't mean that. They be doing stuff that looks satanic. Oh, well, that ain't really satanic. Y'all still buy their merchandise. Y'all still buy their music. Y'all still watch their movies, and they devil worshipers. Well, Lord, how can man be saved? With man, it's impossible. But with Yah, all things are possible. That's how bad it is. Ain't nobody getting you out of this but the Most High. Period. With a T. And the deception is so strong. Whoever thought we would be living in the midst of the end time scenario? We be living amongst the greatest deception on the history of the planet. Whoever thought we couldn't trust our own people? Whoever would have thought that our own people don't even like their own? Whoever would have thought that our own people, our own boys wouldn't want to marry their own women from their own lineage? Whoever would have thought that our women wouldn't want to marry their own men from their own lineage? They don't like each other. The men don't like the women. The women don't like the men. But they're drawn to the people who then persecuted them. They're drawn to the people who persecuted them. Well, she treats me right. He treats me right. She don't. Well, maybe y'all need to learn how to get together. Maybe y'all need to learn how to do unto others that you will have them do unto you. Maybe y'all need to learn how to compromise. Ooh, that's a dangerous word right there. I told y'all we are broken. We are broken people. Who gonna put Humpty Dumpty back together again? Because it looked like ain't nobody could put them pieces back together but the Most High. That's it, period. Ain't nobody gonna put Humpty Dumpty back together again because we messed up. But it's by design. We've been manipulated. We've been socially engineered. And they be like, well, why can't you pull yourself up by your bootstrap? Well, you keep taking my bootstraps off my boots. And when my neighbor want to come help me, you take away his bootstraps and he can't help me either. And then they come and say, here, you need some bootstraps? Here, take these bootstraps right here. Well, who are you, sir? Not knowing he the one that took your bootstraps. And so when he give you some bootstraps, you be like, oh, he's such a nice man. Look at the missionaries coming to Africa. They're so nice. Look how the missionary love us to tell us about Jesus. Did you hear about the missionary who went to Africa and he left his wife in America? And the missionary went there, I forgot the nation. It's on the tip. I can't remember. But the missionary left his wife here in the States. He's a Gentile. And the missionary had an affair with an Israelite sister. And the missionary got the Israelite sister pregnant. But he came to tell her about Jesus so she could be saved. And the missionary got her pregnant and said, hey, well, let's get married. So the missionary married the little Israelite sister in Africa. Yes, in Africa. And left his little Gentile wife back in the States. But he didn't divorce her. But he a Christian. And the little missionary said, hey, I'm gonna marry you, I'm gonna take care of you, and I'm gonna take care of our kids. But guess what? He still had a wife back in the States. So she's happy, the little Israelite sister so happy, and she said, oh, we're married, we're husband and wife. He said, hey, dear, let's go for a drive. So they go for a drive on a dark road at night in Africa. He says, you know what? I think something wrong with the car. Pull to the side. Hey, you want to come help me change this tire? Okay, dear. Help me out. This is a Christian missionary who got her pregnant. Then he tried to beat her upside the head and kill her. This is a missionary. This is a Christian. So while he's smacking upside the head, she's screaming for help. And guess who come to her to save her? Her Israelite brother. But he a Christian. He a missionary to bring the message of Jesus. Stop playing these games. See, this is a truth channel. See, people don't like truth all the time. But I got to tell you the truth. You know why I got to tell you the truth? First of all, I love you. Most of all, I love the Most High. And let's not forget, if somebody don't warn you, guess what? There's blood on your hand. If you know there's an enemy roaming about, seeking your destruction, and you don't warn your own people, you worse than the infidel. Something wrong with you. See, people ain't gonna like this message because it causes division. But the Messiah said, I ain't come to bring unity. I came to bring division. I come to put the father against the son, the mother against the daughter. Oh, let's not get it twisted. I'm not here to sing kumbaya. You either with me or you against me. That's what the Most High is saying. You either with me or you against me. You with him or you not. Choose. You want the tree of life or you want the tree of knowledge? Choose. The Bible says, I put before you life and death. Choose. I put before you the truth or a lie. Choose. A lot of y'all like the lie. A lot of y'all be choosing a lie. You say, you know, you choosing a lie right there. You know he lying to you, right? I don't care. I like the way he talk. I like his swag. I like his message. I like his idea of unity. I like all of that stuff. But you know he lying to you, right? I don't care. It's sort of like I told y'all before. It's like that brother that some of you women be falling for. Well, baby, you know I love you. Yeah, you know you my only one. I ain't got no eyes for nobody but you. Oh, he loves me so much. Then your friend come tell you, you know he got other women. You know he be stepping on you. You know he be cheating, huh? And you go confront him and he be like, baby, I'm not cheating. I'm telling you, don't believe her. You the only one I love. I told you that. And everybody be telling you, you know he cheating, right? He don't love you. And you go marry him. You've been warned. People done told you. They told you the truth. All you had to do was investigate, but you didn't want to do a little investigation. And guess what? You marry him. And guess what? He's still cheating on you. He got babies by other mamas. You could have didn't avoid all that headache. But you love this swag. You could have avoided all that headache, but you loved her sexiness. You could have avoided all that if you just listened to the truth. But that's just the way people is. That's just the way people are. Everybody ain't gonna make it into the kingdom. It's sad. Everybody ain't making it in. I had to realize that myself. I can't help everybody. I can't help everybody. I love y'all, yeah, but I can't help everybody. I can't help all y'all. Because you grown adults. You're going to do what you do. You're going to listen to who you want to listen to, and that's all good. But see, the deception is greater than I ever thought. So I'll just go back into my little corner and I'll just go fast and pray and seek the Most High and pray for y'all, pray for myself, and pray for my family that we might make it into the kingdom. Because that's how bad it is. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of Messiah. If you want to support this ministry, you can by becoming a patron. You can also support us by Cash App, $TEOTW 7101. And also, please remember to support the Dry Bones Project. You can also, if you want, you can go straight down there to the bottom of this video and click the like button. Not the unlike, the like button. And you can also share this video with whoever you think might be interested. Just to let you know, in my opinion, we ain't got much time. Just my opinion. Because I don't see how we make it out unless the Most High come get us. Love y'all.